Building on the strong historical, cultural and economic bond between India and the African continent, the first Indo-Africa Summit came to you on this platform in November last year. Now, following on the success of that summit, CNBC Africa and the ABN Group have joined forces again with the IMC Chamber of Commerce to bring you this two-day summit. Welcome, my name is Zinati Guma. Now, the next 2 days promise to be insightful and far-reaching as 36 speakers and panelists join us to unpack various topics under the theme Bilateral Economic and Business Opportunities between India and Sub-Saharan Africa. We'll put the spotlight on sectors such as power and renewable energy, knowledge, skill and education, automobiles, two-wheelers and electric vehicles, agriculture and food processing, resources, mining, oil and gas, and health infrastructure. So let's get started. I'd like to welcome the man instrumental in making this happen. Rajiv Podar, President of IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He is also the Managing Director of Podar Enterprise and has wide experience in international trade and development. Mr. Podar, over to you.
Thank you. Shri Anil Agarwal ji, Ms. Busi Abuza, dignitaries, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon to all our friends in India and in Africa. On behalf of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry and CNBC Africa, I extend a warm and hearty welcome to the Indo-Africa Summit 2021. A special thanks to Shri Anil Agarwal ji and Ms. Busi Mabuza for sparing their valuable time for us today. After an overwhelming response and participation at the Indo-Africa Summit in November 2020, the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Africa Business News Group are happy to join hands again for the Indo-Africa Summit 2021. Special thanks to Ms. Roberta Naiker, CNBC team, IMC Organizing Committee, and the IMC team for their tireless efforts in putting together this summit. India and Africa are two of the most vibrant and dynamic economies. Together, it represents 2.5 billion people and a GDP of $5.5 trillion. India and Africa share a rich history of culture, economic, and political interaction. India is the world's fastest major economy, projected at 11.5% growth in GDP in 21-22. Large parts of the Indian society are simultaneously growing richer. The number of Indians in the middle class income bracket is expected to reach 475 billion people by 2030. According to Brookings, Africa's potential of growth market for business remains both underestimated and misunderstood, as does the potential for business. This is best exemplified when one considers the question, how many companies in Africa earn annual revenue of $1 billion or more? Most global executives and academicians will assume it to be less than in three-digit figures. The reality, more than 400 such companies exist, and they are on an average growing faster and more profitable than their global peers. Africa's fast-growing population and markets presents important opportunities for business in an environment of slowing global growth. At the same time, greater innovations and investments from business is essential to meet Africa's unfulfilled demand of goods and services, close the gap in its infrastructure, create jobs, and decrease poverty. 6 of the world's 12 fastest growing countries are in Africa. Further, between 2018 and 2023, Africa's growth prospects will be among the highest in the world, according to IMF. Indian interest and investment in Africa has become very visible and are on the rise. So it is timely to reflect on how experience in India may be relevant and helpful to progress in Africa. In the past 5 years, More than 85 acquisitions and equity investments were made by Indian companies in Africa for an investment of over $16 billion in highly varied sectors ranging from telecom, agriculture, energy, consumer goods, cement, textiles, etc. In the last 2 decades, Indian bilateral trade with Africa has seen tenfold increase, growing at from $7 billion to about $67 billion. There is tremendous potential for further growth in the years to come. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement that has come into force in 2019, establishing the largest free trade area in the world, has entered its operational phase. Indian companies can now benefit by investing in Africa for accessing the unified African market created by AFTA and also supplying chain between India and Africa. As on June 2020, India had extended 181 lines of credit totaling to $12.7 billion to 41 African countries for development projects. Indian development partnership with Africa has seen completion of 194 projects in 37 countries. India currently has 38 missions, with a fourth of them opening in the last 2 years in Africa. Additional 47 missions are planned in Africa by 2022. 2 years ago, our Honorable Prime Minister outlined a vision for intensifying and deepening bilateral relations with Africa. He emphasized on developing partnership to build local capacity and create local opportunities as possible, with an emphasis on power and renewable energy, knowledge, automobiles, agriculture, food processing, resources, and health infrastructure. We bring to you the Indo-African Virtual Summit 2021. Considering the huge potential and opportunities, I am pleased to announce the establishing of an Indo-African desk at IMC with the support of the Exim Bank of India and CNBC Africa. The desk will provide and help promote trade, investment, and economic activities between India and Africa. In the backdrop of the pandemic, countries need to collaborate and work together more closely. Let us work together as one, capitalize on our deep-rooted ties and opportunities, and chart the course towards a new economy for sustainable and inclusive future for mutual benefit. Thank you.
Indeed, welcome to this year's Indo-Africa Summit. As Mr. Podon mentioned, that Africa and India combined represent 2.5 billion people with a combined GDP of 5.5 trillion. So it is indeed important to explore opportunities in trade between Africa and India. Now, there are 2 keynote addresses today, one from India and one from Africa. Here to deliver the India keynote address is Anil Agarwal, founder and chairman of Vedanta Resources. Vedanta Group has invested over $30 billion in India and South Africa on organic growth projects. Welcome, Mr. Agarwal.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure and honor to be part of IMC Indo-Africa Summit. My friend, Rajiv Poddar, Busi Mabuja, Sam Bhimbe, Chujar Khorakiwala, again very big philanthropist, and Mr. Dinesh Joshi. It's a pleasure for me to be here. India and Africa goes long way. As been mentioned, Africa, there are 3 continents which has a similar population. India has 1.3 billion people. Africa also has 1.3 billion people around, and China. And the rest comes in the world. So and we have India and Africa I have traveled extensively in Africa, and I didn't find any African country which does not have Indian population. And they are not there from today. They have been there for generations. and they're part of African culture, and we Indians have a natural position to mix up with the people and the part of that country. So I'm very pleased that India, Africa, huge potential. Also similar that most of the African countries are democratic. That's a great, great advantage. And it is the people awareness, how they are looking their country to develop. I have seen Africa, the kind of potential they have. I don't think any part of the world that exists, whether you call it a tourism, whether you call it above the ground, which is agriculture, below the ground, of every kind, whether it's oil and gas, all the minerals, diamond, gold, copper, anything you talk about. I think today the biggest source of getting the raw material from Africa to any part of the world, that is what is happening. The time has come where Africa has to process their own material. As you have seen in tourism, this is the destination where everybody would like to go to the Africa. It has the game, it has the beach, it has the amazing monuments, and it is the place where everybody is going. And that will also, if you ask a common Indian, he will definitely prefer to go to Africa for his vacation. So this is I can come about more and more about our relationship with the Africa, India, Africa natural partner. Whether you call it into natural resource, culturally, you talk about tourism, you can talk about education, and also technology and innovation. I've seen the African people intelligent. I have been in Africa from last 15 years, invested almost $4 billion. We have a huge presence in 4 or 5 countries, Liberia to South Africa, to Namibia, to Zambia, and tremendous potential in this country. If the both countries work together, it can have very different level. Also, I have seen how the both country can eradicate poverty and create massive job for both our country, and that will also happen. We have young population, huge entrepreneurial mindset, which will also have. I believe that time to come, India and Africa going to drive the economy in the world. As you know, Vedanta, we produce one of the largest oil and gas in the country. We produce aluminum, copper, zinc, iron ore, silver, gold, everything here. We also we have invested in South Africa. We are going to invest another $1.5 billion in another 2 years' time in Africa. I was very honored to be the part of South Africa Advisory Council with the President, and we really looking forward whatever we can add value to our both country. One of the programs which I believe India can offer in a big way is skill development. We are hugely driven by the skill development, startup, entrepreneurship, and which we can work together and how we can take it forward to make sure, including the African women, the women empowerment is going to change Africa. So this is also very important, and these two countries can work together. Healthcare. What we have done in this pandemic time, where our Prime Minister Narendra Modi always have Africa in the mind, and he is making a priority that vaccine can be sent to Africa. We also believe that a lot of development can happen in the health sector in Africa, and Indo-Africa should work together. We have Prime Minister Atmanirbhar word, which is self-reliance. And my dream is the Africa should have the same dream of the self-reliance. We are further committed for anything which we can do. I really believe that our chairman, Rajiv Poddar, has been very kind to invite me. And my heart was heartfelt because I'm always looking at Africa, because that country has tremendous potential. And whatever in my level, which we can make sure our Indian entrepreneur, our Indian industrialists and government focus and for the investment in Africa, also African, every sector where they want to come to India, whether for the education, skill development, health, on the health side, we will always be there to support. I wish all of you very best, and I for the great success of this summit, and I believe everybody is going to be benefit with this. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agarwal. And in his words, Africa is the place to be. And talking about Africa, the Africa keynote address is by
Busi Mabuza, Chair of the Board of Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa, which is the largest development finance institution in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Excellencies, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, I acknowledge the opportunity to join you as we once again put our heads together at this Indo-Africa Virtual Summit, sponsored by the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the ABN Group. I'm grateful, ladies and gentlemen, that the technology platforms that we had to so quickly adapt to over the past 12 months have enabled easier, quicker, and more frequent interaction between our two regions. The fact that you're joining us here today confirms that, like you too believe that we will all be better off with the strengthening of the bonds that tie the Indian and African peoples. Looking back to history, the two regions have enjoyed a multifaceted relationship that has survived over several centuries. Our respective cultures, politics, economies, and in instances, sports have been enriched by these deep and enduring relationships. Though the free and voluntary relations of the past may have sadly been tested under the pressure of colonial demands and preferences, there's no doubt in my mind that India continues to enjoy tremendous goodwill in the African continent. I believe many of you here today will agree with me. The relative geographical proximity between the two regions has fostered trade and other interactions and will no doubt continue to define the kind of mutually beneficial relationship that our two regions so yearn for. Globalization opened opportunities to accelerate developmental cooperation and to build on the uniqueness of the historical, enduring bond of Indo-Africa partnership. Trade and investment are a crucial part of this burgeoning and no doubt strategic relationship. According to the publication The Diplomat, India's trade with Africa has grown from $5.3 billion in 2001 to over $62 billion in 2018, making India Africa's third largest trading partner, accounting for some estimated 6.4% of the continent's total trade. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, the bigger opportunity lies ahead of us. A large number of Indian firms, including those that are represented here today, already have invested in diverse sectors across the continent. Yet the bigger opportunity, you would agree with me, remains ahead. The phenomenal rise in trade and investment is driven partly by a positive economic outlook for the African continent, as well as the investment-friendly overtures that various countries on this continent have made. And these have been reciprocated by the deliberate initiatives launched by the Indian government and by Indian industry. And we thank you for that. The January 2021 IMF World Economic Outlook forecasts double-digit growth for the Indian economy this year. This as economies recover from the impact of COVID lockdowns. This, I want to believe, is the highest growth rate forecast for an economy as large as the Indian economy. According to the IMF, Africa was in 2019 home to several of the fastest growing economies in the world. An important milestone was reached on the 1st of January this year, when trading activities under the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, the AFCFTA, officially began, representing a further step towards the potential realization of the aspirations for an economically integrated and developed African continent. I believe this would benefit all of us. Not only does this herald a remarkable shift and sense of commitment towards greater levels of integration within the continent, but if successfully implemented, the impact could be significantly transformational for this region, bringing about much needed reforms that are critical for sustainable and inclusive developmental outcomes, something that we all care about. According to the World Bank, analysis shows that full implementation of this agreement could boost Pan-African income by an estimated 7%, or nearly $450 billion. The agreement would also significantly expand African trade, and especially intra-regional trade in manufacturing. There's an appreciation, ladies and gentlemen, that most economic gains will not be automatic, as they will depend on the successful implementation of, as well as compliance with the provisions of this agreement at national, regional, and continental levels. The success of this agreement will, to a great extent, be contingent on, and I quote, effectiveness of the various complementary policies and initiatives being put in place to enable African business and individuals to take advantage of trade and investment opportunities under the AFCFTA. This is according to the UN Economic Commission for Africa. These enablers include better infrastructure, both soft and hard, improved digital connectivity, something that India knows a lot about, harmonization of quality standards, access to finance, as well as education and skills, amongst many others. I have no doubt that our counterparts in India have a lot to offer in this regard. Several stakeholders in various quarters view the eventual implementation of the AFCFTA agreement as crucial, not only to support the continent's economic recovery efforts from COVID-19, but to build better and indeed enhance the continent's resilience in the face of persistent shocks and risks affecting the region. Furthermore, regional trade could enable companies to develop economies of scale and create opportunities for cross-border cooperation to develop, for example, logistical services, whilst providing for increased investment activity. Other potential benefits that could be derived from this agreement include opening of new markets in terms of both trade and investment, something that we all yearn for, better access to raw materials and intermediate inputs, more opportunities for in-country value addition, thus elevating the African economy's positioning in the global value chains and improving industrial capacity, as well as offering opportunities for job creation. Improved access to market information, something that business needs. Freer trade, ladies and gentlemen, amongst countries should result in increased competition and innovation. And we all know the catalytic impact of these two factors on economic growth. Deeply aware of the barriers and challenges still faced by women in accessing opportunities for trading, especially when it comes to participating in intra-regional and cross-border trade. The AFCFTA agreement underlines the commitment of member states to promote inclusivity, something that is very close to my heart for obvious reasons. The abundance of natural resources in the African continent, from the rich untilled land to the minerals, the ores, and hydrocarbons in the belly of the land, offer attractive opportunities for the pursuit of multilateral business. The human capital in my continent, the African continent, is known for its hunger for education, for skills, and for opportunity. I know that both the Indian and the African youth have the drive, the energy, and the entrepreneurial zest that will make for productive and enduring partnerships. The opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, extends well beyond the skills transfer that we continue to seek on the cricket pitch. I wish you productive engagements as we seek opportunities that will be mutually beneficial, and I wish you a successful summit. Thank you for the invitation.
Indeed, thank you very much, Ms. Mabuza. And India-Africa trade is indeed a very important. I mean, we have seen also a revival of trade between the two regions, with trade between the two regions reaching $62 billion in 2018, making India Africa's third largest trading partner. And of course, we do know that to boost that even further, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is very important in that. Musi Mabuza saying that the fully implemented AFCFTA could boost Pan-African income by 7%. Ready to join us on Zoom is
Sam Bembe, director of the ABN Group. He has an MBA in finance from Maastricht School of Management and qualifications from INSEAD in France and Duke University.
Thank you very much to all the speakers in today's inauguration session. We will go to Sam.
Thank you very much, Zinati, and a big welcome to Mr. Boda, the IMC and Chamber of Commerce President, and also Mr. Anil Agarwal, the Chairman of the Bilateral Group. And we also extending a welcome and thanks to Ms. Busi Mabuza, the Chairman of the IDC, for all the insightful speech they have presented to us. International trade has been tested in the last year at the height of the pandemic, where trade was tested and the delivery mechanism of trade, which is the logistic, greatly tested. And I think it's great news that the speakers have focused on the positives that have come through in the last year, which accept and acknowledge the significance of trade. So in the midst of the pandemic, we are all convinced that the Indo-Africa Trade Summit is so absolutely relevant in today and also inspirational to all the businesses that are being conducted between the subcontinent, India, and the African continent. I think it's actually great news to hear from Mr. Podar that the IMC and together with CNBC Africa, they have decided to establish an Indo-Africa desk. This will be a permanent establishment that will bring about the right kind of capacity to focus on the pertinent issues to facilitate trade. And it is really a good news in that regard. And we also like to thank the salient points that have been brought forth by Mr. Agarwal. He stated the natural partnership, the significance of all the natural attributes between the subcontinent, India, and the African continent. And that relates to the mutual beneficiation and benefits that we're all expecting. I like his emphasis on the beneficiation in Africa. For too long, the African continent was always being seen as having just the comparative advantage of trading in commodities. But I think the significant investments that the Vendetta Group and all other groups that are interested in Africa have done over the past few years indicates that sustainable trade really needs both beneficiation across the two trading partners. Very exciting in that regard. He also made mention of the young population and the entrepreneurship mindset that results into significant skills development. That's a positive development that we're also excited about. I think in the midst of the current pandemic, we have realized that balanced trade is quite a significant thing, because some other trading measures, especially the last mile delivery, might be hampered by issues and conditions beyond any other trading partner's control. And therefore, a balanced trade gives us hope and also confidence of the sustainability of the trade agreement. I think Busi has explained it very well, the expectations around the free trade that is continental, the AfCFTA. I think it underpins the expected economic and development revival of the African continent. And therefore, industrialization and logistic development, which is one of the weakness of the intertrade between India and Africa, has been the last mile, the development of the infrastructure around logistics. And I think the free trade agreement that is now being cemented will unleash the required investment to create capacity that will be pertinent to sustain the trade that has already been growing at absolutely impressive rates since the early 2000s. And I think she's quite correct to say this will also spearhead the innovation that is required with the young entrepreneurship base that both trading partners have. we anticipating that something big in terms of enhanced value addition between the two respective economies will happen for mutual benefit of the citizens of this. It is also, I think, a point to be acknowledged every time that a quarter of humanity on the planet, it's actually sitting in these two respective trading partners in the Indian subcontinent and also in the continent of Africa. And therefore, we expecting that a beneficial trade between these two trading partners will therefore benefit a significant portion of the human population. I think we're very grateful and excited that the second session of this Indo-Africa trade discussions is starting. And we have to consolidate the gains and the thoughts processes that we had developed in the past year. And it is my absolute pleasure on behalf of the board of CNBC Africa and also the ABN Group to say welcome and absolute pleasure to have everybody, all the speakers who are ready to deliver food for thought for us. And also, lastly, special thanks to Ms. Roberta Naika for being a persistent organizer of these successful Indo-Africa discussions. So we wish you all good luck, and I'll hand you back to Zinati. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was Sam Bembe. And thank you very much to all our speakers on day one of this two-day Indo-Africa Summit for 2021.